Hey, I'm Chef D. Not only do I love serving food, I love being around a table. I love a great conversation, and I love finding out more about people, what makes them who they are. So join me at the kitchen table with me, Chef D. Hey, Chef D here, and welcome to my podcast, At the Kitchen Table. Today, we have a legend. We truly do have a legend. A legend in the Waterloo region and around. Ron Caudle, the Codfather himself, is with us today. Hey, Ron, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Chef. Glad to be here.
It's great to have you on. And, you know, for those of you who know how Chef D kind of formed and that is that you've been a big part of the success of Chef D and getting us to where we're going. And, you know, there's been a couple of conversations, honest conversations about, you know, what are we doing and why are we doing this? And so I'd like to share, I know who you are, but I'd like the listeners to know, how did you start Caudle's and why did you start Caudle's Catch?
Chef, it goes back about 37 years ago. Both my wife Sylvia and I worked in big business. Kind of get tired of the politics, and we're young enough to say, you know what, let's try something else. And, you know, once we made our mind up, it was, okay, well, what are we going to try? So I'm originally from Halifax, and every time I went home, I was always bringing lobster and salmon and stuff back for people. And I said to Syl, I said, you know what, I think there might be something there. Let's do a little bit of, research in the area, see what's around in seafood. And, you know, lo and behold, there wasn't a whole lot around. And, I think we get in the business just ahead of, the curve, because seafood became very popular back in the late 80s, early 90s. So, you know, I can still remember the story about bringing some lobster back for somebody for a party, and I thought the guy knew how to cook it, because I certainly didn't. I had to call my mom and find out how to cook the lobster. So
yeah,
and ironically, now we sell thousands of pounds a week. So thanks for the tip there, Mom. But yes, so that's how we get started, Chef. And like, you know, when you start something on your own, it was very difficult starting out. You know, we certainly had lots of enthusiasm, but we were, you know, about to learn a lot about business 101 and financing and marketing and all that stuff that we both know a little bit about now. But back then it was hard. The first 2 to 3 years were extremely hard, and nose to the grindstone, and it probably made us better people and more successful now for going through those hard times, because one in 4, 1 in 5 small businesses succeed, and look at us now, like 3 decades, almost 4 decades now. So that's kind of how we get started, Chef. And like I said, with the marketing, it was very hard. You know, we started out as just a retail store. Quickly realized that we had to go into wholesale to get the volume and make logistics work with bringing stuff in from, the East Coast and the West Coast. And then, we quickly get in the ball game with doing all the Red Lobsters across Canada and all the Zares.
And back the bus up just for a second. How did you get involved with Red Lobster? Like, seriously, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but you know, you're not the GFSs of the world. You're not the Cisco's of the world. How did this come about?
You know what? That's a great question. A lot of people wondered, like, how do we compete against the big food distributors? And you know what? They wanted a personal touch. They were more about quality than price, and they certainly needed the service because they were just starting out. So they gave us. One store, the Kitchener store we got. And I can remember, Chef, one of the first orders, a guy called up and he goes, "Can you bring down some lobster?" And I brought it down, and in a rabbit, like we had a 79 rabbit that was, nicknamed the Fishmobile. And I got to the back door of the Red Lobster, and he goes, he looked out, he goes, "Did you bring that down in your car?" I said, "Yeah, I thought you wanted it right away." He goes, "We did, and we really appreciate it." He never asked me if I have a truck, and I never told him I didn't. But we
I love that story.
After.
Okay, so then you got Red Lobster, and you started to get some traction, and again, growing and dealing with suppliers, and then also you could deal with a product that has a very short shelf life. So how did you
Yeah.
maneuver through all that?
Yeah, that's true. So shortly after the Red Lobster, we got Zehrs, and the same thing with Zehrs. They gave us one store. We did a good job. And, within 6 months, we were doing like a quarter of their stores. And then, same thing with Red Lobster. We were doing like 10 of their 40 stores in Ontario. And then they both asked us if we could do all of their stores like within a couple months of each other. And I had to say no to both of them. And it was a really tough thing, but we said no because we couldn't jump and give them the service and the quality that we were doing, especially with a fresh product, like you said. We had to build coolers, we had to buy trucks, we had to train people so that we could give them the service that they were expecting to get. And we did them both for like 30 years. And now they're moving into more frozen fish, and the grocery stores are having a hard time handling the product, for lack of trained staff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we decided to expand our retail operations and do more local restaurants like the Charcoal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, back then, when you're looking, and we both have the benefit of being able to look back, but looking back and going, okay, I got to spend how much money for coolers? I have to spend how much money for a truck? And then I have to staff it. How did all those decisions come about? And how did you sleep at night? Maybe you didn't.
It's very true, and growing pains are, as you know, some of the hardest pains because you're spending more money that you don't have, or you're getting a business loan, and then you have to do a plan to make sure it's worthwhile. Then, most importantly, you have to get staff and train them, and make sure the whole thing's going to work. Well, you know what, we're both very lucky. We've got some great staff, and we've got 6 staff now that have been with us for over 25 years. And we've trained them, we've empowered them, so that people can have the best seafood experience possible, even without the codfather there sometimes.
And it's great to see the evolution. And, again, we've been friends for almost 30 years now. And, the first time that I ever met Ron is I was working for Toppet Seafood, and I living in Kitchener-Waterloo. The owners, Heather, said to me, "You should really go call on that Ron guy." You know what I mean? So I go see Ron. And so I'm going in to try to sell something to Ron, right? So I meet with Ron. He gives me the time of day, and he doesn't know me from Adam, right? So on my way out, I have fish batter, I have fish, and I have shrimp. And I'm going, I was supposed to sell you something. I just went, wow, this guy's really cool. And that's kind of how our friendship started. And look at where we are now. So now fast forward, you're on the other side. You and Sil have built this business, and you have a great team. And, again, just love hearing, and I know I can attest to this, that you've had some great relationships with great employees to get you where you're going. So now you're on the other side of, of the business where, families coming in, where, you don't want to be there running the day-to-day operations. Yes, you still need to have that face, and you're that face, but how do you deal with that now, with creating something and then letting it go maybe?
Yeah, great question, Chef, and you'll get there one of these years.
I sure hope so.
You know what? It's we have 3 kids: Matthew, Michelle, and Monica. Matthew and Monica work in the business. The 3 M's, I get them mixed up. 3 M's. So Matthew and Monica work in the business. Matt's doing my job, or taking over my job, and Monica is doing Sil's. And Michelle is, as we know, a genetic counselor. She did 7 years of schooling to get her master's in genetics, and she works at London Victoria Hospital now. But whenever we have functions going on, like the wine and food show, Christmas, super busy times, guess who's there helping? Michelle. So, all three kids are vested in the business. And, we've taught them as much as we could. When Matt finished at Conestoga, Monica went to Conestoga too. Take him into the business, and Matt thought he was going to be a manager. I said, nope, you're going to work out the back, Matt, and you're going to pack fish, and then you're going to deliver, you're going to clean up, then you're going to learn the retail part. And you know what? He didn't like it at the time, but now he's the most respected person in our business because he's done all their jobs. So, we've taught them a lot, but one thing you can't teach them is passion. And you know what? All three kids have a passion for the business. It's our family name. And you know what? It's sure comforting for Sylvia and I to see that passion where they work 50, 60 hours a week without question. They do shows. They have the same morals and principles we do. So it sure makes it a lot easier for us. But Sylvia and I still are very passionate about it. And, we're more the big picture now, the strategy and some directions and big contacts, growing the business still. So we'll still stay in it, but not the day to day. And contrary to popular belief, some people think I'm retired, just like Dan Flanagan.
I wonder who would think that.
But we are still enjoying it and still staying connected. And you know what? I don't really know of a date that I could foresee where we ever completely step away from the business. Because you know what, we started it and we love it. Again, it's our family name, and I often tell people, Chef, if I ever won the lottery, I'd just invest it into the seafood store and make it the biggest, best store ever.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So for those of you who don't know, what locations do you have in and around? And I know you also have a really cool website.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, the online business is huge, and we have a couple people looking after that at the store, and we ship across Canada. So, if you have a relative out in Calgary or Edmonton or Quebec, we ship to those places overnight by FedEx. And we have weekly customers that buy from us off the website across Canada. And we also do local, so local shipments in Ontario, KW, Guelph, and Cambridge, local deliveries. We're in the three markets, Cambridge market, Kitchener market, and we're the longest standing vendor at the St. Jacobs market. We've been there for over 35 years. We're also in Vincenzo's downtown, a great relationship with great people and a great store. And then we have our superstore on Autonomy Drive, just off of Bleams and Manitou in Kitchener. Obviously, the biggest selection of seafood that you'll find probably in Southern Ontario. We like to say the world, but we're going to be realistic. And then we're also doing a lot of stuff, Chef, with selling to other principals that are doing like, a store in Woodstock or markets in Stratford. We have a lot of people that are buying our seafood branded Caudles for their retail spots.
Mm-hmm. So, again, looking back and thinking you went through Red Lobster and how to ship Red Lobster overnight and that type of thing. So this just helped you get through the next level and be able to ship it very easily, right?
Yeah, exactly, Chef. It taught us all the stuff that we needed to do, like packaging, and we had to do tests for CFIA. We're a federal plant, and look at temperature deviations for shipping stuff overnight. And we've got it nailed down to there's less than a 2-degree temperature fluctuation in 24 hours. And normally the stuff is picked up at our place at 6 and then delivered the next day before noon. So tons of opportunity to do that. And chefs in the retail world, it's building loyalty and a customer base that on like the corporate world doesn't. I'd rather deal with chefs and customers than white collar corporate.
I get
Toronto,
it.
right?
I so get it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know the answer to this, but farm raised seafood. What's your
Yeah,
thoughts?
yeah, great question again. And yeah, you're knowledgeable, and a lot of people in the industry are. When we started the business, there was about maybe 15 or 20% of the product was procured from aquaculture. I don't like using the farm because there's no burns in the sea. Um, but the aquaculture business now, unlike 35 years ago, is a $1 billion businesses, and now over half of our procurement comes from aquaculture. And we know that the water is covered 7/10 by water, so the world is covered 7/10 by water. So we're going to be fed from the lakes and the oceans and the rivers of the world in the future. And it's a promising future with technology now out there to make stuff sustainable, environmentally friendly,
Hmm.
and save the wild fish of the world. There's not another wild protein that you can buy that's not farmed.
Hmm.
It's such a big, I try not to be cynical or smile too much when I'm in the retail store and some lady goes, "I don't eat farm fish." So that's very funny, man, because every other thing you eat, including your vegetables,
Hmm.
fruits, and all the other protein, are
Hmm.
farmed.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
So
Agreed.
it's just a matter of education. And you know what? We trained our staff on it, video. We've had our staff to some of the aquaculture sites, and they're very knowledgeable in explaining stuff to people. That some of the aquaculture stuff is better for you, fresher, and more controlled, like organically, than the wild product.
Um, Advice to a young person going to go into business for themselves. Drink lots
Um,
of rum.
it's a tough one. Educate yourself. I mean, you and I did it from passion, and learned a little bit going through it. I would tell people to get some help up front for all the things that we had talked about before: the marketing, the finance, the hiring of staff, so HR. Like, educate yourself in some of that stuff. I mean, passion alone, helped us get through the hard early years, but we quickly, learned the other side to have a complete business. So that would be my advice: would be to educate yourself as much as you can. Never lose your passion or your stubbornness, and always keep trying and failing. Failing doesn't mean a failure. Failing means just you learned a lesson and you move on to the next thing. So that would be my advice: is to get yourself educated and informed about what lays ahead, but maintain that passion throughout.
Cool. Okay, so last question. What's the outlook for Caudle's Catch? Where do you see it in the next couple of years? Where are you going with it?
So we have regular meetings, and you know what? For 35 years, Sylvia and I ruled like dictators because it was just us in the business. But now it's a democracy. We have the kids in there, and they're helping shape the future strategy at Coddles. And we want to grow our brand. So we want to grow our retail store to make it bigger, better, modern, more what customers are asking for. They're asking for other proteins and breads and fruits and vegetables. One guy even asked me for a chef barbecue sauce. I don't know where to get that. ChefD barbecue sauce. Just kidding. Just
I,
kidding.
I know. Ouch. I'll take that dagger out later.
So we want to grow that. Matt's already working on. We have a complete freezer setup where we have like the 12 best selling frozen products, and we have them in 6 stores now, and they're working out very well. And Matt can see that going in 50 to 100 stores in the next 5 to 10 years. So there's different ways that we're trying to market ourselves. We really like the local thing. We're working on something in Cambridge right now, for more in the retail realm of things. Value added. We like making value added products, and it's there's, as you know, in seafood, you know, we're still single digit percent of the protein consumption, especially in Canada, a little bit higher in the rest of the world, but so there's nowhere to go but up, chef, and that's what keeps it exciting.
Hmm. Well, Codfather, I can't thank you enough for joining me today, and continue doing what you're doing. And sooner than later, you might see some barbecue sauce. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me today.
You know what they say, chef? At Caudle's Catch, we hooked them, and Chef D cooks them.
Anyways, brother, thanks so much. We'll talk sooner than later, okay?
We might have a little drink of rum soon. Take care.
That'd be great. Talk to you soon.
Okay, buddy. Take care. Bye.